You know, Hollywood gets a lot of grief for remaking movies. I give them a lot of grief for it myself. But sometimes, just sometimes, they do a remake that surpasses the original. Not just a little bit better, not just different, not just reimagined, but completely and actually better. So today, I have 10 remakes that I promise you are better than the original. And at least one or two of these is bound to start some arguments, but I'm ready for it. Let's have some fun. Pop that tape in. I got you. Let's go do this. All right, so before we get started, listen, I am not arguing here that remakes are a good idea. I'm generally against remakes, but sometimes you got to tip your cap and realize that for some reason maybe the original wasn't just fully realized, maybe they didn't have the ability, or maybe somebody just picked up the idea and did it better. And we're going to kick this off with one that's a little bit different that some people might not even know is a remake. It's 1964's Bedtime Story versus 1988's Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. And Dirty Rotten Scoundrels is Michael Caine and Steve Martin. And you have Frank Oz directing that film, and that should be about all that you need to know about it, but it's so much fun. It's very offensive, at least today it would be, which probably makes me like it even more. But the original Bedtime Story actually starred Marlon Brando, and while that's a big name, Brando does not have the comedic sort of chemistry that you're going to get with Steve Martin or Michael Caine, especially them together with Frank Oz behind the camera. You basically have two men on the French Riviera who are trying to compete to swindle the same wealthy woman. And everything that happens after that is hilarious, offensive, and a hell of a lot of fun. The remake of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, I'll confess, a lot of people, unless they're big Brando fans, they may not have even known that that is a remake. It is a remake. You can get it on Shout Select's Blu-ray. I'm going to put the links to these movies in here. And it helps the channel if you click those links and use them. But that's not really the reason. I want you to see all these movies and decide for yourself, but have some fun with them. Own movies. That's very important right now. Start with Dirty Rotten Scoundrels because it is better than Bedtime Story. Sorry, Brando. All right, now next one is a big mega blockbuster that a lot of people may not actually know unless you're like a hardcore cinephile, or maybe you're a big time James Cameron fan or a James Cameron hater. But it's 1991's La Totale versus True Lies from 1994. And yes, this is a remake, believe it or not, of a French film. But this really isn't a fair fight because you have James Cameron and you have Arnold Schwarzenegger and you have Jamie Lee Curtis in one of the biggest and best action comedy films of the 1990s and really ever. It's that good. So yes, it's based off of the idea that was brought to Cameron on the 1991 film. And yeah, it's a French film. And so maybe a lot of people in America didn't realize it, but they really took James Cameron and Arnold and spent $120 million, which is a pittance by today's standards, and made one of the best movies ever. La Totale is fine. I've actually seen it and watched it twice now. This movie is one of the most infinitely rewatchable films ever. So it's not really a fair comparison when you do that. True Lies, James Cameron, Arnold Schwarzenegger, one of the biggest stars on the earth, biggest directors on the earth at the time. The movie still holds. True Lies wins. All right, so next up we're going to 1958 and 1988, 30 years apart for The Blob and The Blob. Well, 1958 has Steve McQueen, and it has that 1950s sci-fi slight horror to it, and it's fun. It's got some small town atmosphere to it. It's got the whole expanding alien organism to it, some crafty turn it upside down camera work in here to make that work, but it has that sort of innocent 1950s spin to it of the sci-fi horror then. The 1988 version by Chuck Russell goes to a whole other level. And it goes to a whole other creature feature, small town, atmospheric horror, and practical effects level. And if you follow me on the channel, you know that small town, atmospheric, creepy, dread, horror, and creature features are like my favorite subgenres of horror. So this checks all those boxes. You got Kevin Dillon, you got Shawnee Smith turning in some awesome performances in this little small town that is being beset upon by this giant Pepto-Bismol alien that is consuming everyone. And it is a hell of a lot of fun. You got my man Bill Moseley popping up in here. This movie has all the practical effects you want, all the small town horror, awesome movie theater scene. You gotta love that. And some really scary, creepy, gross out practical effects that still amaze me to this day because of the simple materials they use to pull it off. This one, both are fun. I own both. You can grab this one on the Criterion Collection. You can grab this one on a 4K from Scream Factory. Both excellent restorations, but the 1988 version wins. This is a remake that picked it up and did it way, way better. Now, the next one is not a fair fight for me, but you've got 1951's Fanfare of Love and 1959's Some Like It Hot, which I got upside down right here. Some Like It Hot is my favorite Marilyn Monroe movie. I have the one-sheet poster hanging in my dining room right now. I really love this movie. Billy Wilder directing. And a lot of people... The 1951 Fanfare of Love is a German film directed by Karl Hoffmann. And it has two musicians that disguise themselves as a woman and join... or as women and join an all-female band to escape trouble. You're going to get that in this movie too, but you're going to have Marilyn Monroe and you're going to have Jack Lemmon and Tony Curtis in here doing it. They catch a mob doing mob things and they witness a murder, they witness a crime, and they've got to go hide out. And then they're hiding out pretending to be women with the beautiful Marilyn Monroe, and that's really all you need. There's fish out of water. This thing was risque and pushed boundaries for this time with cross-dressing men in women's situations and stuff, and it sort of exists in a whole other area for movies in that time as far as boundary pushing, so it makes sense to have Marilyn Monroe in it. Just a fun movie, a great 4K from Criterion. Some Like It Hot. A lot of people don't even know the original exists, the West German film. Some Like It Hot, better anyway. The remake wins. Now, the next one might be a fight between some people, but we're going 1960 and 2001, both for Ocean's 11. Now, I have the trilogy here, which is the way I recommend that you pick this up on 4K. But you've got Steven Soderbergh getting George Clooney, Brad Pitt, James Caan, Matt Damon, Andy Garcia, Elliot Gould, just Bernie Mac, an all-star cast. And he needs it because the original 1960 version had Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. and Joey Bishop. You had the Rat Pack, like the Rat Pack were in this originally. So you had to come in with some heavy hitters, and they did. And this movie is shot so cool. It's not like groundbreaking cinematography, but it's just got that cool factor, that aesthetic to it. 100%. The acting, the shorthand between the actors, the way the whole heist film, they've been trying to recreate this level of a heist film for a while now in Hollywood, and it just really has not worked because you don't have Soderbergh and you don't have these characters and these actors that they just really kept adding to with each subsequent film. Ocean's 11, both good, both fun. But the original was primarily interested in just being a cool movie with this whole Rat Pack together. This has legitimate elements of the heist that are awesome, how they come together, how the editing and the pacing and the shot selection put that together, and the actors interacting with each other like they've known each other forever. Great film. Doesn't matter whether you don't like any of the one actors or not. The sum is greater than the whole of its parts, or however the hell you say that. Ocean's 11, So much fun. Remake beats the original, even with Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and the Rat Pack. Now, the next one, we're going to 1978 and 1956 for Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And listen, depending on what you consider a remake, I could pick different versions of this because this movie's been remade and retold multiple times. And I like the 1956 version by Don Siegel. You can get that version, a 4K restoration, a beautiful one on Kino Lorber. You can get the Blu-ray or the 4K of the 1978 version here starring Donald Sutherland from Arrow Video. Man, this thing, what turns it for me is the 1950s version goes less into the hard, like, horror lean. And that's what sets it apart because I actually really like both versions. But the 1970s version goes into it. You got Donald Sutherland, you got Jeff Goldblum, you actually have Leonard Nimoy in one of the great subtle villain turns of the decade, really, here. So Leonard Nimoy, you got Spock as a villain. The 1956 version ends happier, it's more hopeful, it has that sci-fi slight tinge of horror with the pod people, basically emotionless replacing people. But the 78 film goes big time horror with the big horror ending, one of the biggest horror endings in cinema history, really. And the final image that I'm not going to spoil for anyone, I almost just did it, but it gives the whole statement about paranoia. It's scarier. The willingness to go more horror with the concept is what pushes it over for me. If you change the definition of the remake and you go with The Faculty or Invasion with Nicole Kidman and Daniel Craig, then you open it up. I actually would take The Faculty because that's kind of the same sort of retelling. But straight remakes, I'm going 1978's Invasion of the Body Snatchers over the original. Now for the next one, we're going 1958 and 1986 for The Fly and the Fly. And this one is tough because you've got David Cronenberg over here. And I'm a hit or miss with David Cronenberg, so you're going to go very body horror heavy over here. And watching Jeff Goldblum's character disintegrate from the inside out. But you got all that body horror, the practical effects. The original version is more of that sci-fi, this Kurt Newman. It's an effective horror film for its time. It just can't go there the way this one does and really drive it home with David Cronenberg. With Jeff Goldblum's performance as Seth, he doesn't just transform outside, which you're seeing, and it's grotesque and horrible. He transforms inside. And then you have Geena Davis, the grief of having to watch that happen to someone that you care about is tough. The 1950s version is a creature feature that is got emotion to it, but this one right here with David Cronenberg just cranking it up so high takes the cake, in my opinion. The Fly, it's not my favorite Cronenberg film at all. I don't return to it a lot. It's tough to watch, but that proves how effective it is. Give me Cronenberg's The Fly remake for the win. Now, next up, we have 1932 and 1982's Scarface. And a lot of people may not even be aware that that Howard Hawks made the 1932 version, which you can get on a 4K from the Criterion Collection right now and check it out. But listen, it's a gangster film. It's early American cinema. It's very early, and they just couldn't go there the way that they can go there with this one. This one's iconic. You have Say Hello to My Little Friend, that whole action sequence, which, by the way, Steven Spielberg came in and directed for De Palma for a couple of days. And the most famous action sequence, the showdown at the end with Tony Montana, was directed by Steven Spielberg. But Brian De Palma put the rest of this together. It's visceral, it's tough, it's iconic film. It's not my favorite De Palma by any stretch. I would put Body Double, I'd put Blowout, I would put Carrie, I would put Dress to Kill. All those would be better De Palma films for me, but the lines are so embedded. This film is so embedded in pop culture and cinema history. It's not really a fair fight. De Palma took Howard Hawks' blueprint and made it mythological levels really better than the film is overall. So you got to go with Pacino and De Palma's version of Scarface for the win. Now, the next one is the one where I'm arguing with myself, and I actually don't know if either one is technically better. I'm going to pick a nit to separate the two, but I think they're 1 and 1A. It is 2010 and 1969's True Grit. Now, the 2010 version is by the Coen brothers. You got Jeff Bridges, you got Matt Damon, you got Haley Steinfeld, and one of the great debut performances in the history of cinema, getting Oscars thrown at it. And the original actually also got Oscars thrown at it because John Wayne won the Academy Award for Best Actor for Rooster Cogburn in the original True Grit. I love both of these films. True Grit was my grandmother's favorite John Wayne film, and she was a huge John Wayne fan. And when I say huge, she had the velvet painting of John Wayne I'm telling you about. So 2010 might be better. You got to strike me on the right day. The one thing that I think separates them is I'm slightly able to get lost more in the 2010 version, because when you watch the original version with John Wayne, you see John Wayne. You see John Wayne because his star power, his star presence, you see him first. You see John Wayne in this movie rather than this movie, and it's sort of harder to separate. And that's the only thing. This is picking nits. Both are amazing. They both are based off of Charles Portis, I think is the name, his novel from 1968, so it was relatively fresh at the time that John Wayne did it. I love both. Both got Oscars. Both deserved Oscars. I'm putting a link to the 2-pack here of Blu-ray of both films because I think you should own and watch and love both films. This is one where I'm going to give the just slight nod to the remake only because Jeff Bridges is amazing in the role, and I don't see Jeff Bridges. I just see Rooster Cogburn. I don't see the characters the way I just see John Wayne playing this character, but that's picking nits. They're both incredible. Give the slight nod to True Grit, Coen Brothers version, my favorite Coen Brothers film by a long shot. And own them both, watch them both. True Grit, baby. All right, now at number 1, there is no question. It had to be here. We are going with The Thing and The Thing from Another World. So yes, The Thing is a remake. A lot of people don't know it. We got Howard Hawks getting one-upped again here with 1951's The Thing from Another World, and we got 1982 John Carpenter's The Thing with Kurt Russell starring as MacReady, my second favorite director of all time with one of my favorite actors of all time, and I have famously said that I wouldn't watch this movie for the longest time. My dad tried to get me to watch it, and I would only ever watch it in bits and pieces despite all that power and my favorites in it, because I had this film in my head. And not because I disliked this film, but because it just felt like a Frankenstein knockoff to me. I'd watched it so many times on TBS late night or with Elvira. It's kind of that vibe with the 50s atomic era sci-fi, communist Red Scare, paranoia baked in and all that. And this basically Frankenstein creature that's like a plant, emotionless, is there with the doors opening and all that. And it's a good film, so I was just imagining that. But boy, if you imagine this film for this film, you are absolutely wrong. This is the standard for creature effects, for practical effects. Rob Bottin with some of the best effects ever in the history of film still hold up to this day, creating The Thing. Absolutely incredible. The paranoia, the isolation, Keith David giving a great performance in here. Wilford Brimley. This movie is absolutely incredible. Who is the Thing? The practical effects. At the end, who's the Thing? Are they both the Thing? Is nobody the Thing? This movie is one of the greatest sci-fi and greatest horror films ever made. So, doesn't matter how good Howard Hawks' version is, it will never live up to John Carpenter and Kurt Russell's The Thing, the unquestioned GOAT of all remakes, and my number 1. So there you go, 10 remakes, 10 awesome movies. I love a lot of the originals, but the remakes for these beat it for me. Let me know what you think. I'm sure, do you disagree with any of these? I'm sure some of you do. Give me some other remakes that you think beat the original, and just have some fun with it. I want to have some fun today with this, get a discussion going just about movies, and sometimes remakes can be done right when you're not just trying to steal and reimagine and deconstruct the awesome stuff that came before, and you actually have reverence for those heroes and those characters. It's done right here. And if you enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, hype up the video. That really helps out. And if you want to get deep dives into all these, you want to see me talk physical media and go out in the hunts in the wild and find movies, you want to have some fun Sunday conversations, see behind the scenes looks at my filmmaking, lots of other in-depth discussion and reviews, check out my Patreon. The link is in description. There's a free video up there right now so you can have a little fun with it and hang around, enjoy, because it all helps the channel and I really do appreciate it. But until next time, be kind, rewind. Like always, it's Chase with AV Pop Culture, and I'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.
I know.